really, really great to kind of get to start the conference. That's kind of almost like keynote, isn't it? All right.
I guess we should start by saying hi.
Yeah.
Like, that's almost everything you can in Polish. Sorry about that. But hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. So my name is Mats. I work along with Rustam in an innovation consultancy company called Computas. We do lots of stuff, including lots of Java stuff and microservices, which we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, well, my name is Rustam. I work in the same company. I do also a lot of stuff. Very, very informative, isn't it? I work quite a lot with mostly with Java and architecture and cloud and this kind of stuff. Feel free to, we'll try to keep some time at the end of the presentation for some questions, but if you have any questions on the way or like through the presentation, just feel free to kind of stop us and ask things.
Yeah, or whenever during the conference we'll be here to the bitter end. So let's get started, why we're here. So I guess most of you know that you'd come to talk about Microprofile. But like main focus is on Microprofile. And why do we even come here to do a talk on Microprofile, you might ask? And our first notion is that, well, we heard of Microprofile a while ago, and like trying to figure out what is this really about? What is Microprofile? What can we use it for? How can we use it? And we tried to figure out, and we looked like, okay, there should be some tutorial on the internet somewhere. And we didn't find anyone, so we made our own.
Yeah, so we ended up with, we wanted to show off and to test all those fancy parts of Microprofile. And we needed to have an example of something. And it's, all those kind of things that we'll be talking about, they're kind of quite technical, and they're not, to be honest, they're not really super exciting to be like, yay, I want to test how dependency injection works in a code. It's, so we needed something fun. So then we ended up, I think it was one or two Black Fridays back, we bought those because they were cheap. Cheap-ish. Bottles not included.
Norwegian cheap.
Norwegian chip. So we got those, and then we were like, okay, fine, we can do something fun about it. And there was another thing, actually, there.
Yeah.
We were about to move to another office. So we were moving from one place, geographical, one building into another one. And then the building was kind of brand new, and they were kind of building it, refurbishing and doing everything for us. So then we thought, this is a really nice excuse to mess up all the lighting in the building.
Yeah, we're enterprise developers.
So we decided we're going to control all the lights with microservices and with, a bunch of microservices, different application servers. We're going to code everything ourselves. What can possibly go wrong?
Yeah, so just add coffee and some enterprise developers, and you end up with light bulbs programmed by code. So
nothing can go wrong, right?
Yeah. So what we do? This is what we did then. This is like the system we made. Is basically this one you can see on the screen, and you can see we have a lot of microservices. Every box is a microservice. The ones in gray is upcoming work which you haven't been doing yet, and the orange ones we already made.
They're very advanced services with lots of heavy logic and functionality. Like, for example, time service. Can you guess what it does? It actually returns time. So we did go for all totally over-engineered super enterprise solution for very simple things. So we have a time service, and that would kind of basically return your time. What time is it in the day? It's 12 o'clock, 9:35, whatever, things like that. With the service, we'll take a location and return you a degrees, a number.
Yeah, the weather forecast.
Yeah. And the lightning control service, since we're from Norway and, the Thor and all those kind of things, it's not that. This is more kind of turning on and off lights, no lightnings. That's another microservice in progress, I guess.
Yeah, working on that one. And then finally we got the gateway service, which is the one we are talking to that, well, gets the current time, gets the current weather, transform, okay, that means that the light bulb should have this color and this brightness and so on. That part actually has some logic. But we'll speak more about each of those items during the talk.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah,
a raise of hands though. How many of you have heard about Microprofile? Oh, yeah.
Good. That's actually a good thing. How many of you have now heard about Microprofile? Okay, so we tested your hands. Your hands are working. Perfect. Good. How many of you use Spring Boot or something like that? Yeah, okay, so that's the thing, right? So that's what usually happens is that, actually it's a funny thing, it seems to be kind of country by country thing. So if you come to one place and you're just like ask about Microprofile, everybody will be like, poof. And other countries, there will be nothing, and then you ask about some kind of, because, well, you have Spring Boot, which is, I mean, it's not really a competitor. I mean, it's a similar kind of technology, but still quite different. You have also Micronaut, you have all those kind of things, right? And since most of you have heard of my Spring Boot, it's actually a good thing, because this one is going to be a bit... Okay, how many of you worked with Java E of any kind? J2E, E4J, you know, all those kind of things. Yeah, there you go.
Quite a few, yeah. Cool.
You will see a lot of things very, very familiar.
Yeah.
Those of you who worked with Spring Boot and stuff like that, you will probably not see as much of things as familiar, because that's the thing, that's the whole kind of point. Do we say it now or we say it later?
I think we can say it now. Go on.
Okay, we can say it now. The thing is that basically you have the kind of Microprofile is a Java E for microservices in a way, so it will be the same way that you're used to doing things. While the Spring and the other ones, they will have a little bit slightly different. So you have to learn first how to do it, and then you'll implement these things. And here, if you've done Java E, you will be like, this is easy. But still, it kind of is in a way. I don't really want to be very kind of very tell it the way I'm going to tell it, but it's kind of subset of Java E in a way. It's not really correct way of saying that, but think of it like that for now.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a bit like on a high level, but what is Microprofile when we go a bit into the details? Okay, mixed up. We come to that, but first, who support Microprofile? Who make Microprofile? And we can see that there are lots of companies here, big ones, small ones, like the giants like IBM, Red Hat, Microsoft support it, Oracle, but also user groups like LGC, London Java Community, SOU Java, is Brazilian Jug.
Yeah. So it's quite a big of mix of like small and big companies that are supporting that, and it's kind of cool because some of those companies, well, quite a few of those companies will have typically their own application servers that will be implementing Microprofile. Because one thing that is important to mention that a Microprofile is a specification. It is a thing that a group of people thinks and designs and kind of discusses how to do, but then it's up to, well, some of those logos, at least, to implement that. So you will have to implement Microprofile to support Microprofile on, I don't know, say a Wildfly from Red Hat, or
or Helidon from Oracle. Or
Helidon. You have Tommy from Tommy Tribe, and all the other ones, right?
Maybe we should have a look at the list.
Yes, maybe we should have a look at the list. Yeah. That is the list, actually.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. And most of them support that until the latest version. Some of them are a little bit kind of, well, it takes some time. Because, again, it's an implementation, so it takes some time for them to implement the support. Some of them would be like really, really bleeding edge and just way ahead. And some will be a little bit slower. But finally, they will, at the end, they will be there. And every time a new versions come, they will change a little bit things, so you will have to keep up.
And you can see that there are quite some application servers here. And the cool thing is that if you write your application or your microservice using Microprofile, and you figure out that, and you start out by using, for instance, Thorntail, and you figure out that, oh, but I like Quarkus, so I should switch to Quarkus or OpenLiberty or whatever. The only thing you have to change is your Maven POM XML file, and perhaps your Docker file, and your entire Java code can be exactly the same. It's only configuration and properties. So it's a bit the same way as we did with Java EE, but with more implementation.
So it's very easy to switch, and then maybe if we have time, we'll show you how kind of live that thing, how actually you can just change a POM and build it over again, and it will be just everything will be there. Okay, so
a bit more about the application service before we head on, perhaps.
you always should mention kind of boot up times. I kind of think it's getting less and less relevant in a way, because I mean you do have microservices, and all of them, so you're going to do like rolling updates and things like that. So at some point, those boot up times don't really matter. But in a way, those boot up times also show you a little bit how quick and lightweight and this thing would be, and how easy it will be to develop things. So if you just want to restart or refresh or something like that, it will be just like really quick and snappy and stuff. So we kind of still mention that, but I don't know how much relevant it gets at some point.
But I guess we can do a demo towards the end if you have time. I guess the pointer is that modern application servers start up really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like really fast. There is one missing there. I mean, one of the kind of the newcomers, new kids in a block, Quarkus, and that we'll see that in a bit, like on the practical on the command line, how fast it starts. But the spoiler alert is that it's going to be way down there on the bottom of that list. So it's really fast. It's kind of scary sometimes how fast it is. But that's I guess that would be it for now. Let's go to.
What Microprofile actually consists of. Because Rustam has already told you that it's a specification, so it's a set of standards, set of APIs, you could say. And this is what Microprofile is. It consists of these standards. And this is the newest version, 3.2, came out earlier this month. And you can see it, if you can look at it like vertically from layer to layer, if you start out in the bottom, you have CDI, JAX-RS, JSON-B, and JSON-B, these ones. And these are the exactly same standards as in Jakarta EE.
And also the thing is that they would update versions. So there would be coming new versions and new updates of it, everything. But mostly latest versions, I think it's been mostly more or less kind of stabilizing things, except for one version when they kind of broke things, but that's it was fixed now, so it's okay. And I mean, basically you have all the things that you will need for a microservice, right? Your microservice needs to talk JSON or like REST or whatever. So we have JSON and JAX-RS and all those JSON-B and everything. Your microservice wants to, if you deploy a bunch of microservices, you want to check how your microservice is doing. So you want to do some health checks. Well, we have a health for that. Cool. You want to add some security. Oh, well, we have JWT. You want to have some kind of Prometheus or whatever checks and do metrics and see how your web services, again, how they're doing, but like how they're performing in a way. Well, then you have, where is it? Metrics, I can find. Yeah, there's a blue one. I was looking for the orange ones, but yeah, metrics there. So
and I guess it's worth mentioning here that Microprofile is opinionated in a way that it supports JSON and REST, but not XML and SOAP. So Microprofile, like where Jakarta EE consists of several ways of doing the same things, Microprofile tends to say that, okay, this is the way we support it. This is like state-of-the-art best practice, or at least the way we support.
Yes.
All right, so should we head into the light control domain?
The super enterprise IoT world. So light control service. So this is kind of the brains of the whole thing. So this is basically, because like, okay, so think that you're kind of in our shoes and you're moving to a new office. And what you would typically want to do is to, I mean, it's winter, autumn, dark, gray, rainy outside. What do you want to do? Well, you want to kind of makes a bit warmer lights, the color of the lighting, you want to change it to something a little bit warmer, a little bit brighter. You'll kind of still feel that you're sitting on a sandy beach somewhere with palms and umbrella drinks and stuff. But so then you'll be like a bit more happy, right? And then when it's summer and it's very nice weather and everything, so then maybe you can do something else with the lighting. So that was the whole idea, right? So you collect the information about time of the day because, well, then you would know when the sun will go up and down, the sunrise, sunset, things like that. You check the weather, if it's cloudy or if it's not, and things like that. You will check the temperature outside, if it's like maybe it's cold, so you want to make it a bit more warm, a bit more cozy inside, I don't know, whatever. So all those kind of things, all this kind of logic and brains of the whole thing, that's where it happens. So it collects all the data from the other microservices, kind of thinks through what should be happening, and well, sends the message to the lighting control service, so the light control service, basically, right? Okay.
Yeah, this one. Yeah.
That one. So
Yeah.
this is the lighting control service is the one that actually controls those, right? So you kind of anti-corruption layer that you would normally call it.
So like if you were to, if we have these light bulbs and we want to switch to light bulbs from another provider, then we can, if we switch or change the service, then everything else should work as fine as of now.
Yeah.
So let's jump into it then and show you some code.
And basically, we're going to show you a bunch of features that Microprofile brings, but then we're going to try to connect it to some kind of functionality, so it will be a little bit more fun to actually to remember it. Because we're people, we're kind of weird things, right? We like stories. We like to have like beginning and an end and something in between. So this is the story. So
And this is the beginning, CDI.
At first there was a CDI. Well,
yeah, and in the microprofile context, it's not true, but it's not far from true because most of the other features from microprofile use CDI internally, and the CDI, it's a dependency injection, like the way it's done in Jakarta as well. It's actually quite exactly the same specification.
This is pretty much exactly the same thing, so it's nothing really new, but we'll just show it that, well, we have it as well.
Yeah, and it works. And it's kind of boring because it works. Yeah, and you also have typical things you need, like to create a REST endpoint. So JAX-RS for REST, and JSON-B and JSON. Yeah, I would say JSON-B here, but this is JSON-B. Long discussion on that, but like for normal typical business use cases, JSON-B is fine. That's like if you need to do some fancy or like more advanced stuff, you might need to do JSON-B. Then you need to do some mapping yourself and quite some more code, but it also works.
Yeah.
But like with JSON-B, you can just let the application server handle most of it for you.
But actually, the thing is that with this kind of things, it's very easy to create like services and you specify the media type and it will just return the right one. So if you want to have, JSON, it will return JSON. If you want an image, it will return you an image. So you can just specify a media type. And before, I mean, if I would have to do something very simple and quick and dirty, I would probably go for like things like Python or something because it will be very easy to do a few lines of code. It will create a service for me and it will be just working. Now lately, for quite some time now, I would use this thing for that. I needed to create a tiny little microservice that would create like QR codes and JSON objects and different things with kind of same functionality, but we'll just end up packaging things a little bit different. And I ended up using Microprofile, and it worked really nicely and very easy to switch like MIME types and stuff like that. So it's really, really nice. It's very easy to prototype things in as well.
Yeah. So that was the logic from the light control service. Yeah. So the gateway service, the one that actually says that, okay, so 8.3 degrees outside and at 6 a.m. means that it should have blue lights, like the logic part of it. This one, the brain. So here we use the same things as we did in the light control service, but in addition to that, we use some more features. For instance, the config. So Microprofile config, it's what you see here. Those of you used to Spring would probably recognize this. It's pretty similar to config part in Spring. And what it does is like you can inject your properties from like from system properties or from your Docker file, or from if you start by your Java application by command line, you can say -d so and so property, or you can have a specific properties file.
And it's very nice because then you can change the properties depending on your environment. So you want in test environment it would be one thing, in production it would be another thing, and things like that. It's quite simple and easy to do, and you can provide also default values. So if there's nothing else specified, we'll just go for that thing.
Yeah. So
pretty much.
So if you use Docker, and you can have the same image go through entire way from testing to production, and the only thing that changes is the properties that you inject from outside.
And you probably should as well.
You probably should, yeah. Specifically on passwords and URLs and so on. So we have used it for like to specify the RGB, the light bulbs, but you probably would use it for URLs or secrets or passwords or paths or all these things. And there is quite an interesting discussion going on about config, because in Jakarta EE you don't have anything like this, and there's a wide agreement that we should have had. So there's a discussion going on. Okay, so we should have some config in Jakarta EE. Should we take the one from Microprofile and integrate it into Jakarta EE? And if so, who should control this? Like, should it be part of Jakarta EE release cycle or like development process, or should it be developed the way it is through Microprofile? But how should that integrate with Jakarta? Yep. That's a big interesting, like, not technical but organizational discussion going on now.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on, and actually everything is open, so it's on the mailing list and everything. So if you want to join, you're more than welcome. Just look for it, and you'll find them like mailing lists and everything, so you can actually see what's going on and see how things are being planned and everything. Okay, let's go to the next feature.
Yeah, the health check.
The health check. It actually got a bit changed. When was that? A few releases back, right?
Yeah.
So this is the happy days scenario. So this is where everything is good. And this is what you want to do, because you want, if you have, for example, something, when you have a bunch of microservices, you always want to check how things are doing. And you want to restart your pods. I mean, if you're probably doing like something like Kubernetes or whatever, and you wanted to restart your services and everything, if they are sick or something is wrong with them or whatever. So this is where the health checks come in. And that one takes in, it's pretty much the same one as Prometheus expects you to.
Yeah, like it's more like Kubernetes.
Yes, health. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So this is not what it looks like when something's wrong. It's like it's not running properly. Blah blah blah. So you can like up or down. Yeah. Okay. And you can see that this is liveness. So in Kubernetes, you have the concept of Lightness Probe and Readiness Probe, and this health part of Microprofile is, as Rustam started talking about, it's exactly made for that, for that purpose, for Kubernetes to be able to see if your service is running properly or not.
So now what they did was to split up that thing to liveliness and to the next one, the readiness. There will be on the next slide as well.
And everything you have to do to implement health check or like liveness check in your application is what we see on the screen here. So you add the annotation at liveness. You use CDI with that application scope. You implement this interface and override this one single method. And that's all you have to do. And then if you are doing this for demo purposes, you do things like can connect and then you return a random boolean. Don't do that, but for testing it works. And you could say that, okay, so if everything is up, then it's good. But if something is wrong, you could say with data, not gateway, not live. So that's what we saw on the previous slide, was that message from that comment. Yeah, and there in this probe, you can see that it's exactly the same, but you can do them completely differently if you want to. So like you can say that, my container is up and running, but it's not ready to receive traffic yet. Then you can create different implementations of these two.
Yeah, because that's another thing that's very important to have when you do microservices. You don't really want one of your microservices just simply DDoS the other one. So then you have to do all these kind of fancy things, and there will be some other things that you really want to put into your logic as well that we'll be talking about in a bit. Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. But it's like, this visualizes that, yeah, the different parts of Microprofile fit together in a good way. Yeah. Okay, so that was a bit heavy jump from health to metrics. This is like a snap of the metrics site you get out of the box. So when you start up an application server running Microprofile, you get a bunch of metrics without doing anything. And that's things like how many threads are running, how much is the CPU used, how much memory is used, all these things.
And then you can also do like a few annotations as well, which will actually give you a bit more out of the box with just a few annotations extra, which is a very nice thing as well.
Yeah, and then you can get things like this, like.
Yep.
So you can specify in your code. You can specify annotations so that you get metrics regarding your code. This means that they are specific to your application. Like in this example, we count how many times do we switch the state of the lights. So like, if you do, every time you change the lights, you increase a counter. And this is pretty easy to, a bit quick there, but this is just an annotation in your code. So you just add an annotation set as at counted, and it counts. You can say at timed, and it like mentions how long time does this call take, which can be useful.
And we'll show you some code live. I mean, not on the slides, but we'll show you some code live in a bit as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's application-specific metrics. What else?
What else? Well, we have some. Well, errors are going to happen. Things are going to break. What do we do then?
And that's another thing. That was one of those things that I was mentioning that you really need to have when you do microservices. You need to have some kind of retries. You need to do circuit breakers. So if something is, well, I mean, say, for example, my weather service is not responding. The third-party weather provider thing is down. What do? Well, I can wait for so many seconds and try again, retry. But then I can also, after like 2 or 3 retries, I can give up and say like, well, it's not working. And then I can do circuit breaker. And then I actually can combine the circuit breaker with another thing that we'll be having in another slide about
the timeout perhaps?
Well, timeout can be as well.
Or
but I was thinking more to the fallback thing.
Yeah.
That will actually do, like, for example, okay, well, that weather service is down, fine. It didn't respond within 10 seconds. I'll try another weather service and I'll get another thing. So all those kind of things you really want to implement into your microservices. So so that's what we did with our super enterprise thing.
Yeah. And to this one, it's worth mentioning that, well, here you specify the method name, that if this method fails, then invoke this method, and then everything happens under the hood. What you should think about here, which we didn't think about, is that the get default light state should have the same signature as the get new light state.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. Like if you think about it, it totally makes sense that the compiler should be able to do all these things. But if you don't think about it, and then you have different signature in the get default, because like when you get the default, you might not need the parameter, for example. Then you get an error message that's like, wow. Looks like the entire word broke down.
Sometimes it's not very self-explanatory things that you get in your face. But it makes sense after a while. So we've tried it so you don't have to. Have the same signatures. There is nothing that stops you from screwing it up, but it will just blow up in your face then if you don't.
That might be an improvement sometimes, that you do some kind of reflection thing so you get this compile time that this one should be. But it's not there yet. So if anyone wants to have fun with reflection in Java, you can have fun with this.
Send a pull request.
But if not, let's head on to RestClient.
That's another thing that you typically would need on a microservice, right? You want to have you don't really want to code all the HTTP calls and all the parsing of JSON and all those kind of things, right? So that's where RestClient comes in. And what happens is that when you use that thing, it will give you a you'll basically be calling it the way you would call the classes and variables within, or methods within those classes, with like dot notation and things like that, which is super nice. But it takes a little bit of setting up as well.
Yeah, So it takes, okay, so here we have, from the gateway, we do call the light control service, which speaks with light again. So from the gateway, we do REST client calls to the facade. And then, so this is how we do that. This is in the gateway code. We say that, well, the facade has this signatures. So like this maps to, the REST endpoints we created the facade. And we can see that there's some magic here, like magic, but specific stuff, like at register REST client, which says that, yeah, this is actually an interface for a REST client. So behind this interface, there's actually HTTP calls going on. That's the specific thing, and then you inject it with dependent, and that's it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then when you're going to do it from the other side, you just inject it.
Yeah. And you annotate it at REST client here as well.
Yeah.
And if you do only this, nothing's going to work. Because, yeah, there's a REST endpoint, but like, where is that one? This service doesn't know where that other service is, so you need to add that to the properties file. And there's a specific syntax for that. It's like package name, class name, and then /mprest/URL, and then the URL of the service you're about to call. And if you get this wrong, you get another not very informative message.
Get a little bit weird messages.
But like Google this and you will find the tutorial says do this, this, and this. That's what we did, and then finally got it working.
All right.
Maturity. So what should we say about maturity and Microprofile? It's been going on for a couple of years.
It was getting in the beginning. It was quite unstable. So the thing is that you would things would break, things would just because again, it's up to the providers of the app servers to implement that, right? So then sometimes they would implement, sometimes it will be a little bit slow, sometimes there will be a bug or two or something like that. So the maturity was a little bit so-and-so, but now it's getting actually there, and it's getting really, I think I would actually say it's getting quite stable and nice, and unless you do very, very different crazy stuff, you won't really notice that many bugs or meet that many bugs really. And it's very nice. It's getting well, now they're actually saying, well, it's production ready, to some extent as well. So
and people are using it in production, but there are there's a different story. There are lots of stories to tell here, but like the overall story is that it's production ready, I'd say, and well, if you don't like the implementation from one app server, you can switch to another one. Oops. Okay, we should speed up a bit, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so time and weather service. Let's do a quick one. This one, we're using quite some stuff we already talked about. These two services. Yeah, OpenAPI. How many of you are used to Swagger or OpenAPI?
Swagger, yeah, good.
Yeah, so like OpenAPI is the standard for Swagger.
So this is what kind of is behind. If you look behind the fancy web interface, that's that. And this is what you get out of the box. It's a very nice way of documenting your microservices as well. So you don't really have to do anything. You just, in the best case, you'll need to annotate with the proper name and things, like this. So you just say, well, summary and description and things like that, and we'll just generate the whole thing for you. Very nice to know after you've been working with the service for a bit, and just okay, where was the URL for that thing, or how do you access that, or what do I have to send in? Very easy, very nice, just out of the box. So
nice way to document your services.
Yep.
So I guess the thing you've all been waiting for, why do we even bring the light bulbs here? And that's because we want to show you what we'll be doing.
Actually, the real story is that it's very, very fun to go through airport security with those. That's why we bring them, really. Very fun. In hand luggage, lots of cables, things, pointing things. We have 2 computers, a router.
Yeah, everyone working at airports think we're crazy.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so this is the front end we made. This is not a front-end talk, but it's a really simple Vue front-end. Vue is awesome, by the way, but yeah. And we have 2 features here. We have reset lights, so that they don't, when you start it up, it's so bright that it takes all the attraction. And then we have the set lights. And the set lights here, that invokes the gateway. That says, hey, gateway, give us the proper lights.
Yep.
And then the gateway talks to the weather service. And the weather service hopefully returns the weather forecast. If not, we get the current time, and then we transform that into how much light should we have, and then it pushes on to the light bulbs.
And for the demo reasons, we added a little bit of randomness to that thing. So whenever you do set lights, the lights will change a little bit. Because, well, temperature doesn't change much during a talk, hopefully.
Then we're speaking for too long.
And time doesn't change that much. I mean, again, hopefully. So we needed to add some randomness to actually show you that it actually works.
Yeah.
So let's see if it works.
Yeah, should we try it before we show some code?
Yeah, do that.
Okay.
Let's do that.
It's always fun to do things with 2 screens.
2 screens is always confusing.
Yeah.
Okay, now we have a pointer.
Okay, so here are the light bulbs. So if we press this button, hopefully something will happen. Yeah.
Hey, they're blinking.
Yeah.
Very fancy demo, right?
And if we do it again, it probably should. And if we do it again, you can see the randomness. So now they're switching a bit up and down.
And well, I mean, in case you wonder, one of them is just shades of white. So this is not colored bulb. Yeah. That's why the one of them is a bit weird.
Yeah. And if we think that we got too much light, you can reset it. So, yeah. And you can see that, of course, you can see these ones update accordingly. We have 4. Yeah. Okay, that's a long discussion, but like the system thinks that we have 4 light bulbs. Yeah. Question.
Could you press rapidly set lights like crazy?
You want to DDoS the system?
Oh.
Well, we can try actually.
We can try. So the question was if we can quickly press lots of times, set lights, and see what happens.
Yeah, you can see they switch up and down
Seems
quite sometimes.
it seems like it's just queued up all the events, and now it's kind of changing lights all the time.
Wow.
Huh.
That's better than
we
expected.
actually thought about that. Thank you for testing our system.
You're a tester, right? No, you should be. Okay, so
You have a gift.
I guess we can try to show.
Okay, let's show some code because we don't have that much time. So
okay.
yeah, okay, there you go. Maybe you should switch to one screen.
Maybe I should switch to one screen. This is quite hard.
Okay, well, stay there.
Okay, mirror. Yeah, apply. Yeah, and nothing works. That's good.
Oh, we get a blue screen. Perfect. On the Linux. Another blue screen.
Okay, this is fun. Okay, here we are. Keep the interest. Yeah, always fun to do things on stage. Alexa, we are pretending that we are in Minsk. Okay, I guess this might be a bit small. But what we can see here is lots.
Oh, perfect.
Hey, nice.
That's much better.
Okay, so we see here, what we see down here, it might be a bit small for you, but it's like, so we got -2. Oh, sorry, not gonna press that much. Okay, so we say this is the weather endpoints. So this is the gateway, the part with logic. You can see the output from that one.
Yeah.
And you can see, well, we're trying to connect to the weather endpoint, and then we get -2. So it's the weather forecast says -2. And we can convert the -2 degrees into the light state that says, or light bulb number 3, with input source weather, so that we know that, yeah, it was the weather who said that we should have this one. Brightness 120, and a U int, that's the color, which is like, yeah, the provider, the vendor of the light bulbs have their own system, so I don't have any clue what the numbers convert to, but there's some kind of conversion going on between this -167 something into somewhere between 0 and 255.
Yeah, well, so I guess we should show.
Yeah, and then I guess we could say that, yeah, and here we are, new state of light. Okay, so we're switching state. So here's what actually happens. Okay, but that's, so maybe we should, yeah, and here's, so we are using Docker in different settings. So like these 3, this is the terminal for the weather service, the facade, and time service. They're combining them with Docker compose thing. So the logs spit out and like.
So here you can actually see which service is doing what. So you have weather service, facade service. Yeah. There should be more. Time service should be somewhere there.
There's a time service.
But we're basically logging everything in one place. But should we try to? Do we dare trying restarting that thing? Yeah. Well.
Yeah, we try.
We do.
We do.
I want you to notice one thing. Just keep on looking on the side here, so you'll actually see which of the services is starting. And then if the demo works well, it probably will be that one of the services will be done booting more or less before all the others ones
Okay,
even
so we're
start.
starting. Okay, so he's
Ooh, password.
yeah. Okay, so
Okay,
now
now
we're building, starting. Yeah.
building.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Time service.
Yeah.
It's pretty much done,
Yeah.
and all the other ones are coming. Like weather, facade, they all start booting. And it's actually pretty cool because, well, you can guess. Time service we actually ported to Quarkus. And
Yeah.
it just like it starts in no time. Because I
Yeah.
mean there is none of them really have much complicated logic. But still
Yeah, I think we're like 1 second for Quarkus to start up here. So it's like, yeah, it's really blazingly fast. That's really cool.
that's good crazy.
Okay,
The other good thing, while we're almost
yeah, time
running,
is running fast. Yeah.
time flies really fast. We're going to be here rest of the day. We can show you. We can talk about that. We can. The idea was to give you some kind of idea, since most of you have not used a Microprofile before. It was just to give you a little bit of pieces, show you that it's actually quite easy to get started with, and things that you actually have seen before.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that we. We'll probably drop
yeah,
that
learn.
part.
Okay, yeah. New cool things coming. Yeah, Microprofile Starter. If you want to start Microprofile,
Yep.
Google Microprofile Starter and start from there. It works. Yeah, you ain't gonna need it. It's like anything else, you ain't gonna need it.
There's a lot of things that we throw out of the code, so all of those things come to die to this section of this
Yeah.
presentation.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Different app servers. So like, if you don't like the first one you go with, try another one. As I talked about already. Smaller. Yeah. Okay, we could talk about lots of things, but yeah. Okay, local Maven repo. If you got a jar file, you can create it into a Maven repo, so you can use it as a dependency in your Maven code.
It's not a very typical Microprofile thing, but we just still mention it because we were forced to use it, and this not many people. Well, quite a few people are surprisingly enough. They're not really aware of that feature, so we just put that slide in there.
Hopefully, you ain't gonna need that either.
No.
Okay, but faking API. So if you got like physical things you could program against, like light bulbs, I'll create a fake API so that you don't have to bring your light bulbs to code against them.
What do you mean? I mean, no.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah, Docker is cool, Docker Compose is cool, we're using it, that's fine. Future work. Yeah, Microprofile. As we said, yeah, we already talked about that Microprofile is a standard, and there are different implementations, so that the standard come first and the implementation come afterwards. So like, when Microprofile 3.2 is out, that doesn't mean that the implementations are out. They keep coming. So currently we are running 3.0 for our applications.
Yeah. So then there were very few other things that we want to look into, and those will be probably coming at some point. Things like JWT and security and adding things like that. But the good thing is that most of the code is actually online, and we have a link for that as well.
Yeah.
But before that, well, this is also the thing that we really kind of wanted to implement. So we want to add open tracing, so you can actually know where things fail in the bunch of... This is a thing that you kind of probably need to consider when building your own microservices, not just like something to play around with, but actually more for production
So
stuff.
like when you call your gateway, you can follow that call through the gateway to the web service and to the light control facade again. You know that, yeah, this was the exact same call.
You know where things fail, you know where the bottlenecks are, all those kind of things. So another thing is, well, I mentioned that already, adding security, because you don't want your services to be open for everyone sometimes. Like, for example, controlling lights, that would be very fun if you just put it totally open on a company network. Then you have guys like this. What happens if I click many times on this thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome, by the way. Come visit us another time. Okay. Another thing we want to do is like go from Docker Compose to Kubernetes and perhaps to OpenShift as well. OpenShift is cool, but that's a different story. And Istio. Istio is service mesh. So whenever you got quite a lot of microservices, you probably need something like some kind of service mesh.
We weren't really crazy enough to do it for this kind of thing because, I mean, it's enterprise IoT stuff-ish. But, well, I don't think it's kind of Istio worthy for now, I guess.
No, not yet.
But we're working on it.
Over-engineering in progress. So, okay, if you liked your talk, or like if you went to sleep during the entire talk and figure, oh, what did you really talk about? Luckily, everything is online. Everything's on GitHub. So the link to the top here is the link to the GitHub project where we have all the code and readmes and so on. So like if you want to see more of the code and try things yourself, you can go there. And we've also been writing a bit about Microprofile. So I tried like write about everything at this Microservices and Microprofile link.
Yeah.
And Rustam's been writing more in depth on
I
some parts
did
of
a
it.
few. I have another one coming up. It's on my laptop. I haven't pushed it yet. But so the part 2 of that thing. So the part 1 is this thing that I mentioned already, where you can switch MIME types and generate all this kind of things, anything from PDFs to images to JSON objects and stuff like that, and how easily you can do all that stuff on. With Microprofile. So you can go there. Take a picture of this slide. So we kind of decided to go for, instead of wall of text, we just went for a wall of links.
Wall of links. Yeah, and we also do a shout out to Rick Peel, which has written great tutorials in depth on several parts of Microprofile.
Yep.
And of course the official webpage, microprofile.io, has lots of info. There's lots of documentation out there.
And yeah, well, that's pretty much it. Do we have?
Yeah.
We have a thanks slide and we have a contact information. So ping us. This is us on Twitter. But well, we're gonna be here the rest of the day, and well, feel free to stop by and ask questions. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you all for coming.